Here's something that happened to me. This is the second time now. The extruder will sense when there's the end of filament, and that's usually not an issue, but once in a while, once it's gone down in there, it comes over to the side here and tells you to push the button to unload the filament, and you push the button and it won't come out. And that's not usually a problem, at least what I've found, because if it doesn't come out, I can just tell it that it did, and then when I go to load the filament, the new filament, putting it in, that will just push on the filament that's in there, and I can just push down and make sure that it gets down into there, and then it'll start to spew from the nozzle, and then I'll tell it that it didn't load another 1 or maybe 2 times just to make sure that that new filament has made its way down through the nozzle. And then that's not a problem. The problem is if that runs out of filament and then it cools down, it'll sit here in this position, and it'll cool down, and it'll say to hit the button to heat it up. So if you hit the button, it will heat back up again. But I think something happens that because it was cooled down, it won't come out, or it'll just stay in there, and it's beyond the gears in the feeder or something. So if I go to load it, it'll go and bring it down so far, but it won't push the filament that's in there. It won't push down through the nozzle. And the last time I unclogged it, it was sticking up, and I think the filament was going to the side instead of pushing down on the filament that's in there. It was pushing to the side and just kind of wedging it in there. So what I'm going to do is I took the nozzle off, I believe, to get to that, and it just basically came out and the piece was there. So that's what I'm going to do now, and we'll see if that's the same situation. It's kind of annoying because this print job, basically I had to stop it, and all it is a square of plastic that we use as one of our products. It would suck if it was a long job, and I had several hours into the print. But I try to avoid not being here if it's going to run out of filament, or if it is going to run out shortly before I'm going to bed or something like that. I'll just pause the job somewhere within the infill or something, and then just put a new roll on. And then you use the remnants of those rolls later for things like this, which is what I was doing. So it's not that big of a deal, and this is like an hour and a half print. So let's get going on taking that nozzle off. So you hold the button in here, and it brings your Z up, and you raise it up. I don't want to be all the way up. Bring it back down again. I don't think I will need to get to any of the screws back here, but what I've seen at times when I'll put it all the way up, and I will unplug it if I'm doing a repair, and the screws in the back here are up above, can't get to them because of the bar here. So this is high enough, and I have this part even with here. So all I'm doing here is I'm going to heat this up. To the nozzle changing temperature. I believe it's 237. So I'm going to grab the block here, and you got to watch you don't hit the wires on it.
And you gotta watch you don't hit the wires. Don't hit the wires. Don't hit the wires.
Shit. burn the wire up. Ah, damn it. I put cardboard down over the plate. Take that off there. Alright, so that didn't come down. Yeah, there's a small piece in here. You can see it inside there. Right there. So this didn't go well. I got the nozzle off and the filament wasn't there to pull out. And then I tried to feed more filament in while the block was still hot, and that didn't go down. And then I found that there was filament inside the extruder at the top in the feeder, and I couldn't pull that out with the pliers or anything. So I ended up having to take the extruder apart. Okay, so I don't remember if I need to take this off, but I'm going to take it off anyway because I need to clean in here as long as I'm taking stuff apart. So you take the 4 screws out of here. 1, 2, 3, 4. These the top 2 on the bottom left are the same size. The bottom right is a little bit longer, as you can see. And that one goes through this bottom part and into here. I'll take that off and just slip it under there. As you can see, there's a lot of dirt in there. You can brush that off. I have a makeup brush that I use for that. Screws are in the front here. There's 2, one in here, I believe one over here. And I don't know if you have to take this fan off or not. I might take it up anyway because I need to just clean all around this, but I think that will come apart, but we'll find out here. I don't think you have to take them all the way out. I think you can pull this apart. Alright, so I do need to take the fan off because the wire's holding it. So that's not a big deal. It's just these 2 screws here. I'll set them with the other fan screws. Set that in between the belt. There. Now see if this comes off. There we go. There we go. This screw is quite long, so I think it was on a couple of threads or it was just jammed in there. Alright, we'll set that on the side here. Now we can get more of the dirt off of this heat sink. So I still need to get this apart. So I'm gonna I'm going to need to take this whole thing off here. This was taking so long that I forgot to record parts of it, so I didn't actually get video of taking the heat sink out and the piece of filament out of the Bowden tube. But that came out pretty easily from what I recall. I picked up the video again at the point of taking the heater block off and removing the heater that I shorted out when I was holding it with the wrench. Okay, so to take the heater out, you can see the metal here is split, and there's an Allen bolt on the bottom here, right here. So you loosen that bolt, and then I take a small screwdriver and just pry in here very little, just to get this to loosen enough to push this out, because it might be like kind of seized in there from the heat. So I just put a little bit of torque on there once the screw is loose, and just enough to slide that out. This one feels like, it seems like it's too big, but it's very snug. So I can turning it slowly. I can see it in between there. Once I get the threads all the way out from the between, there we go. Whoop. All right. So I took the screw completely out. And now I'm going to try to press the heater through. And it doesn't come through easily. So I'm just going to pry this just a little bit. And there. Just a little bit of a torque. You don't want to do it too much, because if you flex this, it's going to break. I'm sure it's not flexible at all. So I just keep working it out. Keep pushing on it. There, it's out. Now you can inspect the wires here. As long as you're taking this harness all apart, you can inspect the wires here for the thermistor along here, and other wires going to your fans and things like that, as long as you're taking the harness apart. Alright, so once you get that taken off there's not really an order of things, I don't think. I mean, you can take this off first or this off. I don't remember exactly what happened here. I don't know if I ran out of battery or what, but I didn't record anything else about putting the heater back in and all that. But the order of it, I don't think it really matters. You can open up the box on the right and disconnect the wire from in there, then unravel the harness cover and pull the heater, unwrap it around, and then wrap the new heater. Generally what I do is put the heater in the block, put the block back into place, get that all situated, and then wind the wire around the harness back to the control panel, the control board, and then rewrap the cover. So that's basically what I did there. Unfortunately, that didn't fix the issue, and I forget exactly what it was doing. I know it wasn't printing, but I forget if I was getting errors or what. We'll go into that in the next segment here.
9 months later.
Today I'm going to try to do a repair. This printer's been down, I think, since April. I just haven't gotten to doing it. I was trying to do some troubleshooting and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. I was on chat support with Prusa, and all the things they had me testing and trying ended up the determination was that the board was bad. Somehow burned the board out. And I know I did see some sparks fly when I was holding the nozzle, holding the heat heater here, and trying to take the nozzle off. And I think the pliers touched the contacts for the heater, and I guess that shorted something out. So I've got a replacement board that I got from them, and I'm going to try to put it in. I don't know exactly how to do it. I'm reading the instructions, and I did find some things on it. They're saying to unplug all the wires and then remove the board and then put the new board in and put all the wires back in, which sounds easy enough, but my concern is about where all the wires go. There is a diagram that shows I don't think it shows everything at one time. It does describe the wires and where they go. I'm just a little skeptical on doing it that way, so I'm going to attempt to. There's bolts that I see on. I think there's 4 bolts, and they're the Allen wrench, the larger Allen wrench. I'm going to loosen them and see if I can pull this board out whole like it is right now, and then maybe put the new board in and just replace the wires as I take them off of this board, have the board laying here. That's the plan. So that's what I'm going to attempt right now. Let's see what happens with that. One.
It took quite a while to get the other 3 screws out. You really can't see what you're doing and trying to reach in there with the Allen wrench and then trying to get the screw out with the needle nose pliers, but that's basically just a time-consuming thing, and I didn't record all of that.
I got the board out, just had to wiggle it a little bit, and it came out. But I did unhook the wire to the motor up here, and that allowed me to pull it down. So now I can get it out of the way. And here's the new board. It comes with new fuses, so now I have some extra fuses. But looks like that's about it. So I'm going to screw this in and start putting the wires in. All right, that's screwed in, and this is the wire I took out for the motor up here, and it goes in up here. And then I'm just going to start taking the wires off here and matching them up. I got the top part of the board done. From here up, switched over. Some of these smaller plugs, the top one here gave me some trouble getting it out, but I just went with the ones below it. They're the same kind of connectors. They did come out. Then I was able to then grab this easier and was able to get it out. So carrying on. That only took about maybe 7 minutes. All done. Probably about 22 to 25 minutes to switch all the wires over. This is the last wire I put in. I had trouble getting this wire. There's another wire, a set of black wires, and I had trouble getting the plug out of the old board. And once I got it out, I'm not quite exactly sure which one it came out of. So I did put it in there's 3 plugs here, 3 holes to plug it into. One of them's taken up, which I think is the thermistor, and then I have that next to it. So there might be just an open port there. I just have to check. I can check that. That's easy enough to check out. So everything's plugged in, and I have to put the thermistor back in. So I have that out during troubleshooting. I think the nozzle looks like it's a little bit loose, so I just have to reassemble all of that, and then we'll turn it on and see what we have. Hopefully everything works. So here are the 2 plugs that it's having an issue with. I'm trying to figure that out. this one, then there's an empty one, and then there's another one. So this one, I believe, is the thermistor. It's the thermistor for the print, for the extruder. Yeah. All right, so the one on the right is the thermistor for the extruder. Then the middle one is empty. I'm not sure what that would be for. And then this one is the thermistor for the heat bed. And that's the black wire that goes to this cable here. And that goes into the print bed. So that makes sense. All right, so I just have to get this wire harness on and the clamp and reroute the thermistor up, wire it in, and just close this all up. Got all the wires plugged in, got my thermistor installed and wired down in. I got the shroud wrapped around it, down into here, secured in there, it's tight. And then I placed the wires in here, put the two zip ties to hold the wires in here, and I'm just going to close this up. And then we'll I have one fan that's still off, so I'll put that fan on, and then I'm probably going to do a cleaning. I did a video on that already, but I'll do a cleaning and a lubrication because it's been sitting here since last April and it's very dusty. I got a thermal anomaly error when I tried to heat up the nozzle. I had the nozzle wasn't screwed in all the way, and I vaguely remember doing that. I forget why, but whatever reason, it's not screwed in all the way. At least it doesn't look like it is compared to one of the other printers. So I thought I'd heat it up and screw it in there, and then I got the thermal anomaly error. I just decided to do a complete calibration wizard. It was asking me to do that since I put the new board in, but I just thought I'd try to heat the nozzle up, and I'm assuming that's, or I'm hoping that that's because of the calibration wasn't done. So I'm doing the calibration now, and hopefully that will solve that issue. Okay, got a couple of different messages. The firmware of the printer, it came with, the new board came with firmware 3.13, I think it was. And that has another test that it runs. It's a thermal model calibration. So I couldn't get past that, and I did read that people were having that issue when they updated their firmware. So the firmware that I had on here, which was 3.11.0-4955. So I loaded that in, and I was pretty hopeful, but then I got a thermal error, preheat error, and I was troubleshooting that. So they said it could be the heater, it could be the thermistor, it could be the wires not plugged in all the way, check all the connections and all that. I put a different heater on and a different thermistor and just wired them in just to see if it would heat, and it still didn't. It still got the same error. So then I ran across a video of what someone did, and he was having what seemed to be the issue that, well, I didn't know it was an issue, but my nozzle is down a little bit, as I was saying earlier. I couldn't heat it up to screw it in more. I can't see it here.
So there's too much of a gap between the heater block and the nozzle. And I thought it wasn't, that I hadn't screwed it in all the way. But the person's video, theirs was just like this. But when they took the heat sink off, the heat sink was screwed right down and touching the heater block. And they go in the same hole. So I'm wondering if this didn't go in all the way because the heat sink is screwed in all the way, and I was running into that problem. So I'm going to take that out again. And so I did take it out and check it because I thought it was loose. And I'm going to take that out and see if that's the case. I'll back that heat sink back off a little bit and bring the nozzle all the way in the way it's supposed to be. So that's the next step. Let's see what happens. So I took this apart and I have the nozzle. I don't know if you can see the gap there. It's a tiny gap. I don't know if all my other printers are printing. So like one printer that's not printing doesn't look like there's that much of a gap. If anything, the other ones, from what I can tell, there's not much of a gap. So I just made it, I don't even know if it's as thick as a piece of paper. Yeah, it's about as thick as a piece of paper. And then the heater core, or the heat sink, was right up against here. And as you can see now, there's a pretty good gap there. And there's a shaft that screws into there. I don't know what it's called, but that I must have turned that somehow and got that screwed down further in here, because if that's down inside here, the nozzle can't screw it in. And if it's screwed down in there, then the heat sink is going to screw down more over the shaft. See if I can take this off here. This is still hot. There we go. So this was way inside here, and this part, the threads here were basically touching this. So when this screwed down inside there, it's all the way down like that. So now we'll screw that on like this. I don't know how tight that's supposed to be, but I know when you've got the nozzle on, you're going to hold this and turn it a little bit like that, and hold it with the pliers or a wrench when you're loosening the nozzle, because you don't want to over tighten it into here. So that wasn't too tight, so I think that's going to be good, just to be kind of snug. So I'm hoping that's the problem, and I'll install these onto the nozzle, onto the heater block before I put it up inside there, and hopefully this will all go together, and that'll be our solution. Well, I set the nozzle to 210 degrees. And I don't have the fan hooked. I don't have the fan hooked on right, so I don't know if that's going to make a difference. But no, it's adjusting. So it's at 208 degrees, but it was only going up to about 133. And it was going very, very slowly, just crawling up, and then it basically timed out. And that's what the error was. So that fixed it. Getting the nozzle in a lot further.
paper's thickness away from the heat block, and then having the heat sink have a pretty good distance, quarter-inch or so from the heat block. I'm gonna call it a night for now, and I'll continue this morning. I'm gonna have to do I'll do the whole full calibration wizard again, and that should be ready then, because I did all the cleaning and lubrication and everything, so I should be ready to go and do a test print tomorrow. Configuration wizard complete. Everything went okay. No issues, no errors, and I got the first print going. The first layer is looking really nice so far, and this is just a plate. It's like maybe 1/8 of an inch thick. It's a short job, so I just wanted to try one, and then I'll branch out to other jobs. But yeah, so we're fixed finally.